Guys, welcome back to another Worst of First here with Justin Rowan, myself, Phil Boileau, aka Sporting Phil. Today we're bringing on what we predict to be the fourth best team as a group in the Eastern Conference, being the Washington Wizards. Bit of a differential here. I had them all the way at number 6. Justin has them all the way at number 2. So we're going to have to hear some good points from Justin to justify that one. It's an off-season additions of Kelly Oubre Jr. Through that draft day trade, Gary Neal, Jared Dudley, Allen Anderson, and a loss of Paul Pierce. These Washington Wizards, led by John Wall and Bradley Beal, one of the more dynamic backcourts in the league. Every year that I see this team, I have high hopes and let me down. Justin, why are they not going to let me down this year?
Well, I think you rank them so low because you have been let down, you have been hurt in the past. I really do believe that the Wizards are going to take a step forward this year. John Wall's just entering his prime. He was fantastic last year. And this year is probably this is where you start to see guards take the lead. And I expect that from Bradley Beal. He's been a big time performer for them in the playoffs, and really how the Wizards performed in the playoffs encouraged me. How they played against the Hawks, even without John Wall for a couple games, they remained really competitive, and they were really let down by a lack of a bench. Bringing in Allen Anderson, someone that can defend, that can shoot the three. Jared Dudley, even though he's hurt, he is still going to help them out once he returns to the lineup. I like Oubre a lot. And they figured something out when they started playing a little bit more small ball. They were very, very dynamic offensively to go with a fantastic defense in the playoffs when they went smaller. And Otto Porter Jr. burst out finally in the playoffs. We finally saw the promise of him being such a high draft pick in the playoffs, playing as a power forward, playing as a small forward. He can play at both positions. He has great length. I just think Porter and Beal take a step forward. Wall continues to be one of the best players in the East, and they have solid bigs. So defense and young guys stepping forward, plus an added bench, I think it's going to get them second in the East if everything goes well.
Brought up that front court. I think Gortat get a bit of an underrated factor here, just because they do play with Bradley Beal and John Wall, who do get the majority of the credit for that team. I think it might hurt with the loss. Paul Pierce, I know season play wasn't amazing, but in the playoffs, he is a steady veteran and leader. But I do think that while Kelly Oubre may not be a large contributor now, in that youth and athleticism between him and Porter on the wing, I think will allow for because to me, Pierce, you're basically saying, John Wall, you're now ready to lead this team. And I think that questions I've had for a while is John Wall a true leader? Body language in his always. Okay, I'll put it this way: in talent, I think I agree with you, or I'm closer to prediction. Because to me, anytime you can, control the pace as they can with that backcourt, you can shoot, you can bring wing defense, you can score inside, you can play defense. They have those tools. Me, it's a bit of it seems like a rudderless ship. And I don't know how John Wall is going to correct this. And I think he needs to, with the lack of there, to make this team successful. But do you think John Wall is capable of taking that leadership role? Because to me, that's going to be the big difference between my pick and your pick.
I've always had an issue with people not believing in John Wall's leadership. I do think he's a very high character person. He's got a lot of competitive fire. I don't see a lot of quit in his game. It's something I don't understand. I completely do believe that he's able to step forward in that leadership role, that he can be the number one voice, at least, on a contending team. Now, you probably need a better player to go along with him if you truly want to contend for a title, and I don't necessarily think they have that player yet, but I do think he is a leader. He can be a leader on and off the floor, and there's nothing really that I've seen out of his character that makes me question whether he can be that person.
Yeah, I mean, I agree in terms of the fire and the passion, but his ability to trust his teammates, I suppose, is a better way of putting that comment. I think he is a fiery competitor. We spoke about Otto Porter and that high draft pick. Well, also Bradley Beal was a very high draft pick, and they kind of, put their future in those two guys. So I'm going to say, looking on that full argument, that I think we can meet somewhere in the middle. I think where we've placed them overall potentially is a bit lower, just because I still have my doubts. But I'm going to put it on looking at three key guys, because I think when you look at Nene and Gortat, you pretty much know what you're going to get. So it's going to be between Wall, Beal, and Porter. And I think Wall, we generally know we're going to get. I'm not as worried if you're a little bit more secure with his leadership as opposed to just competitive fire. Then we'll take your word for it on that one. But I think for them to be as successful as you think they're going to be, we're going to have to see that next step again from Beal and Porter. Because to me, like you said, star, both those guys have mental. I think Beal is a very underrated player, although he's going to get paid like a very highly rated player. Okay, so if you had to say it as a closing remark, what do you think is the key for the Washington Wizards this year in terms of anything to really make that step?
The biggest thing, well, other than the growth of the young players, which I said I anticipated, is going to be health. John Wall, Bradley Beal, Nene, they all have checkered histories with injuries. If they can stay healthy, which they haven't been able to in the past, and I think that's why you see them not having home court advantage in the playoffs in the past. If they can stay healthy, I really do think they can make that leap up the standings. But if those players don't make the leap, or they have injury problems, you can easily see them slide down to closer to where you're projecting. But I just really do think that this is a fairly complete roster that is featuring one of the best stars in the Eastern Conference, and for that reason, I have them rated obviously higher than you have.
All right, and as the last question, just for fun, do we think Kevin Durant is going to be doing the Dougie next year with John Wall?
I don't think Kevin Durant's going to Washington. I think the coming home thing's a little overblown. I think LeBron went back to Cleveland because he used to play in Cleveland and he had unfinished business there. I think if LeBron was drafted by Memphis and went to Miami, I don't think after 4 straight finals appearances and all the success he had in Miami, he's going to Cleveland, which he said as a kid he didn't even like. Kevin Durant grew up as a Raptors fan. He wasn't even a Wizards fan. I don't think he's leaving Russell Westbrook and Serge Ibaka to play with a lesser player in John Wall.
Completely agree. We want to know what you guys think about these Washington Wizards for the 2015 NBA season. Please leave your comments below, and always get in contact with us on our social media tributes. So from Justin Rowan and myself, Phil Boileau, I want to say thank you for joining for another episode of Worst to First here on HoopsLounge.com.